Hi, my name is Jessica Johns, and I'm the author of Bad Cree. Writing by Indigenous women and queer Indigenous writers has always been important, and I feel incredibly privileged to have written a novel that is a part of this wonderful canon. And I believe that this novel is especially important now because it's so important to be listening to the stories of Indigenous women and queer Indigenous people, and particularly stories like Bad Cree, where the story is not just about trauma. It's a story of tragedy, but it's not a story of just trauma. It is also a story of love and kinship and relationships. And I think that Indigenous people are incredibly complex, and it's important to showcase us in all of our complexity. And this book does that. The protagonist of Bad Cree is Mackenzie. She is a Cree millennial woman who is deeply flawed. She is very avoidant. She has a complex history with her family members that have led them to be semi-disconnected. And when I was writing Bad Cree, I very intentionally wrote a protagonist who is not a hero. I think it was really important to me when writing this novel that is largely about kinship and kinship relations, that it was important to decenter the protagonist and instead make it about the whole cast of characters and their relationships to each other. First novels are incredibly important because they're our first introduction to the world. It's our chance as authors to introduce ourselves, our stories, and our voice. And it's also a time of a lot of firsts. For me, it was the first time working with an editor and working with publishing houses and navigating the literary world. So it's an incredibly raw and emotional period. And I think that really shows up in the novel that goes out into the world as well. Even bad pages are pages. I think that it is really easy to try as a writer to wait for inspiration to start working on a novel. And if you wait for inspiration, you're never going to get those pages out. I think having a writing routine and a discipline that works for you is really important. And even when you're writing something that, or write pages and words that you don't think are the best, they are still pages and words that you had to get out in order to get to the good stuff the next day, or whatever it may be. It might end up working for you later. But the important thing is just to keep that routine, to keep that discipline, and remember there are no bad pages. Currently on my side table is Post-Colonial Love Poem by Natalie Diaz, an advanced reading copy of And Then She Fell by Alicia Elliott, and Venko by Cherie Dimaline.